SMQBs episode 105. We are down one bison and up one moose with our correspondent from Toronto, Paul Moose Jaw Miller. Welcome, Moose.
Happy to be here.
It's always a great show when Miller comes on.
Always.
Fans are clamoring for it.
Hey, just to humor Bison, let's pick up with what he was talking about in the intros this year on the rules. Looks like there's already one team that's figured out how to bypass the shift rule. Have you guys seen this?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I saw this a few weeks ago that they were planning this.
Yeah. So the Red Sox move one of their outfielders into the short field position between first and second and effectively have the shift in place. And the rules do not disallow that. So the shift is back, baby.
So that's just what they're going to do every time. All these teams.
Yeah.
You just put the left fielder there?
Yeah.
I think they put the center fielder there and moved the left fielder over to center.
Okay.
Yep.
And how is that distinguishable from the rule?
The rule says the X number of infielders have to have both feet on the infield dirt.
There's nothing about outfielders. So you can do whatever you want.
Well, can they amend the rule before the season starts?
I don't think so.
I don't know. They also, Max Scherzer has also been pushing the rules, trying to quick pitch. Since they're telling him to hurry up, he got called for a quick pitch, and they called a balk on him. So I think the Major League Baseball is going to have to work this out a little bit. It should be interesting to see. So we're 5 weeks past episode 100. House, what's the status of the tattoo, bruh?
So we have a location on the body, and we have a location. We have a location to place it, and I can say that you'll all be able to see it without disrobing too much.
When?
The plan is Thursday.
All right. So are you going to beat Bison to the punch?
I think so. I thought he was going to get his Sunday.
All right.
Miller, when are you getting yours?
Yeah, I can't.
Miller, you can do mine. You can have mine if you want.
You could get a picture of Pope tattooed on you.
Yeah, you can have a picture of me. Why wouldn't you want one?
I spoke to my religious leader, and he looked poorly upon it.
Miller, I'm a pope. I'm offended. I am a pope.
Is that?
All right.
Rooster want to know if your wife was the religious
leader. Is your wife the religious leader?
It's good by me. Yes. I mean, listen, I will get the tattoo when my paycheck arrives.
Okay.
All right. It's a deal.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
All right.
We'll Venmo you. What's your Venmo?
All right. Okay, Moose Jaw.
Yes, sir.
NHL trade deadline passed. We want you to tell our listeners what happened and tell us, is anyone going to be able to stop the Bruins?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this season it's more wide open this season than any season. And the reason for that is the goaltending on certain teams isn't very good. And Tampa, I don't know what's happened to Tampa.
Can't play defense.
Well, here's the thing. They got called out by their head coach, by John Cooper, the other day. He benched their top line in Buffalo. You would think that would motivate them to come out, and they got their asses kicked by Carolina. Something is suddenly everyone got old, or they're not listening. Who knows? But the fact that Tampa is spinning out of control right now really opens up the Eastern Conference. And I got to tell you right now, if the playoffs start today, Boston and Pittsburgh, if I'm the number one seed, I don't want to be facing Sidney Crosby and Malkin. That's just a nasty matchup. Can Boston get through it? Sure. But that's not a matchup I would want. Now, going over to the West, let's talk about Dallas. Because I know Brian Pope is, he is all over the Stars.
Huge Stars fan.
Huge Stars fan.
I go back to the Minnesota days. The Minnesota days, Paul. I followed them all the way up until Dallas.
What arena did they play in Bloomington, Minnesota?
Well, that was the XL in St. Paul, right?
No, that was the Met Center in Bloomington. All right, so anyways, going back to Dallas right now would be lined up to play Edmonton. Now, Edmonton's goaltending sucks right now, but against McDavid and Draisaitl, that would worry me. I think Edmonton's actually going to beat Dallas if they play. But I will tell you that the trade deadline was fascinating because of all the moves before the trade deadline. Up here, NHL trade deadline is the day for the sports radio, the sports TV. They do like 9 hours, but all the trades were made like 3 days in advance. They had nothing to talk about. It was great TV, just fascinating TV up here. But I will tell you, I think now Toronto, as much as and you guys know, I've never been a believer in the Maple Leafs beating Tampa.
No.
I think they can beat them this year right now.
Oh boy.
I think they can. I'm not
Right
guaranteeing
now they
anything.
can for sure.
Right, I'm
Moose,
not guaranteeing. I'm not guaranteeing.
can we
anything.
talk about this? Why are you dissing the Bruins? They're 49-8-5. They won their last 10, and the American press is comparing them to the old Red Wing teams.
Okay, so that is if you're going to compare them to the Red Wing teams, that's just stupid. And that shows you the okay,
Wow, hard hitting.
If you want to compare them to the greatest teams of all time, you talk about the Montreal Canadiens of the 1970s. Okay, the Detroit Red Wings, I mean the Montreal lost 8 games one year. But the NHL is very different than it was, and traditionally or historically, the best team in the league often doesn't get even to the semifinals. And I got to tell you, I'm not sold on the Bruins. It's a balanced schedule right now. Everyone plays the teams the same amount of times. And now you're going to have to go up against Pittsburgh 7 times potentially. That is a different entity than going up against, whoever you want to pick at the bottom. I just don't buy that Boston is one of the great teams of all time right now. And if you want to get an analysis, look to the Canadian media, not the American media for hockey. I'm just saying. I mean, that's like asking a Canadian to do the analysis for NFL football. That's just stupid. Okay.
Moose,
Yes.
was there any name that was, well, tell our listeners who might not be, our dumb American listeners who can't analyze hockey, tell us, was there a big name traded? And was there a name that surprised you or will really change the fortunes of a team in the playoffs?
I got to tell you, the big name that I think that might change the fortunes is Ryan O'Reilly getting traded to the Leafs, because he's the kind of him and Noel Acciari.
Unfortunately, he won't be playing for like a month.
No, he broke his finger. He's due back for the playoffs. They've already said that.
Wait, a broken finger affects a hockey player?
Seriously.
Yeah,
What's up with that?
Fight it off.
He's weak. He's on Toronto.
I will tell you that
you only need 9.
if it was the playoffs, he'd probably be playing. But who cares what happens? I mean, Tampa's 5 behind the Leafs right now. They're going to meet each other. It's just who's going to have home ice. If it gets a little closer and home ice is at stake, I bet Ryan O'Reilly comes back. But he's a guy who is 70% face-off in the face-off circle. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's been a captain of a team. He is tough. Between him, Noel Acciari, and Luke Schenn, the Leafs went from this small, speedy team to this much tougher team that is very different than the team Tampa squeaked by last year. Squeaked by. Milk, can I bring the text up? Should I bring up the text of congratulations, Luis John?
Oh boy.
But I think that was one of the key trades.
I didn't realize you guys would blow it. Jeez.
I know. I mean, I did, but the one guy who I thought would get moved and didn't was Erik Karlsson from San Jose. I don't understand why they didn't move him. There's a guy that could have gotten a lot in return, I think, for San Jose. I would have thought he is arguably one of the top 5 defensemen in the league this year. I'm surprised he did not get moved. I am surprised that Chickern went to Ottawa. Ottawa likely won't make the playoffs. And
Chick Hearn, the longtime broadcaster for the Lakers, I had no idea he was playing in hockey.
Yeah. So I am surprised that he ended up
from the grave, I think.
Pretty much.
Because Ottawa won't make the playoffs most likely. And he was the top defenseman out there. So a little surprised at that. But I will-
NHL's had some problems with concussions with their stars this year.
Well,
Right.
I think they're just being more careful, not letting them go back on the ice as quickly as they used to. These lawsuits scare the crap out. Yeah, their guys are staying out longer, but come the playoffs, I don't think you'll see one guy get a true concussion. Hockey players will play through most anything.
How about
Unlike
how about a former superstar like Patrick Kane moving to the Rangers? Is that does
a
the
big-
tree fall in the woods there, or something bigger than that?
I think that was, he's the most marquee player. He's not the player he was 7 or 8, 9, 10 years ago when they won cups. Patrick Kane is he going to be the difference maker for them? I don't think so. I think they're gonna go as far as their goaltending takes them. That's the Rangers. They're gonna.
So
go
who's
as far-
got the best goaltending in your opinion? Who are playoff bound?
I mean, that's an obvious answer.
Please don't say Tampa, because they don't right now. They just don't.
Wow. All right.
Wow.
You just said our defense sucks. Now, let me explain hockey to you. Okay.
Please do.
Oh boy.
Oh, as if we're a 3-year-old
Uh-oh.
American,
Here comes more
Hey.
stupid
third grade American.
American.
This is why
So,
this is why the
Canadians
Canadians have won
going?
so many wars.
Wow.
Oh my
Go ahead.
God.
see
Go
the
ahead, Moose,
goalie.
This is
please.
the most
Fired
aggressive
up Canadian.
Canadian I've
Wow.
ever met.
No kidding.
The goalie is part of the defense, and when you say our defense sucks, you sort of start with the goaltending right now.
Well, they're putting him in bad situations, but okay, fine.
Okay, the best goaltending right now, I think the Rangers and the Devils probably have the best goaltending right now. That's going to be an interesting, if they meet, that's probably going to be the best series. Just because, one, the rivalry between New York and New Jersey, there's some history. The goaltending should be outstanding. I think Vegas is in some trouble with their goaltending. When they're relying on Quick to be their number one potentially, he's long in the tooth. Robin Leonard hasn't played in weeks or months. It should be interesting, but let's see who gets healthy. That's going to be a big thing. Colorado's got tons of injuries. They need to get healthy. If they get healthy, they're still going to be the favorite.
Yeah,
They're
unbelievable.
still the favorite.
Still dogging on the Bruins with goal.
Yeah, no, I don't.
They might have the best combo, by the way, in the NHL.
Okay.
I think it's hard to go 62 games and only lose 8.
Yes.
I mean, that is really hard to do.
Yeah, well,
It is. But you're asking for my opinion. I'm just giving you an opinion.
We're asking
these
for
guys-
your unbiased opinion.
here, all
Yeah,
right,
like Boston, I'm not sold on them. Listen, they've got some of the best forwards, playoff proven. Their goaltending is not playoff proven yet. I'm not buying in on them. I guess, I don't know if they'll get past Pittsburgh.
okay.
Wow. First round.
You mentioned
First round.
Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
a wild card team,
Yeah.
and let's talk about. Top to bottom, the East is. Who is going to compete against them in the West? The Leafs, the Bruins, the Lightning.
Oh, yeah.
no, we haven't even talked about Carolina.
No, the East is loaded, and they all loaded up. They
who-
all
who-
acquired.
I would
they
go
all
all the way
acquired.
down to the Rangers in Pittsburgh. So who is going to
Absolutely.
challenge them in a Stanley Cup final?
I think
The Avs.
I think the Avs. I think Edmonton is going to just depend on their goaltending.
Edmonton's
they-
barely hanging on, man.
If they can get the goaltending even a little bit, like just reduce their goals against by half a goal a game right now, they are going to become one of the favorites in the West. Because I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you guys saw the move that McDavid made. He was in Philly. He didn't score on that, but when he went through backwards 2 of the Flyers, that was one of the greatest moves I've ever seen. Like this guy is a generational talent that I hope gets to the finals because he deserves it. And I would love for North America to see this guy play because he's playing in Edmonton. You guys don't see him play.
No, we don't.
And he is Gretzky like that's how, like, he is worth the price of admission. he's at a different level compared to Crosby or Ovechkin when they were in their primes. Like, he is a different player. So I hope he gets out and into the finals, or at least the Final Four. But
Bruce,
you're right.
Are you surprised by the Kraken, third place in the Pacific West after 1 year in the league?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think they might just fall off though and not make it, because listen, we still got a lot of hockey left. We're at the beginning of March. We've got probably 18 to 20 games left for most teams. Kraken may not make it. They just got blown out by the Leafs last week. They went on that 8-game winning streak right after Christmas. That's propelled them. They've been hanging on. They're not a great team. It's going to be, how far can goaltending take them? That's the story for every team, right? It starts with as Milk knows, it starts from the net out, right? Right, Milk? Right. Right.
That's his motto, net out.
Net out. Net out.
So that's how I see it. I mean, listen, the East is loaded. They might beat up on each other so much though in the Eastern Conference that whoever comes out of the West might be in the best position health-wise to win a Stanley Cup.
Moose Bison's not here, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Caps. Or do you have them even making the playoffs?
I think they look like they're rebuilding. Do you agree?
Yeah, they're rebuilding. They got nothing. Yeah. They won't make the playoffs. I think they're probably 3-4 points out of a playoff spot right now, which is, it's not a ton, but it's significant to make up, because they've got to jump a whole bunch of teams. Oh yeah, they got to jump.
Was it top 4 in each division?
No, it's like the top 2 in each division, and then the next 2. So right now,
in the whole
Washington is 12th overall in the conference.
They're 3 points out of a wild card.
Yeah, but that's hard to do.
They're only 3 points behind the Pens.
Yeah. No, listen, it could happen. That's why it's hard to say. But I think if the Capitals sneak in, they're not going to do anything. If Florida snuck in, maybe they do something.
They've been kind of a surprise.
Well, if you want to go back to the tape preseason, I told you the Panthers were a mirage last year.
Wow.
I said that. Okay. I said that at the preseason.
What did you get wrong on the tape? Should we recap what you said about the Islanders?
That was last year.
Oh,
that was 2 years ago.
That was last year. And I owned up to that, man. I didn't run from that. So, but Florida, I'm not surprised in Florida.
I think. What about Buffalo? They can make some. They score a lot of goals.
Yeah, they got some good players there. I think they're a year away. They're a year away. Close. But you know what? For that city, they need something to go right. They need something to go right. Between mass shootings, snowstorms, and the Bills,
Wow, the trifecta.
Milk. Who's going farther this year, the Lightning or the Leafs?
Until the Leafs do it, it's always the answer is the Lightning. Until they can do something.
I agree with them. It's the Leafs are like the Capitals were 5, 6, 7 years ago. Every year would be a disappointment until if they can break through, then just look at it. Dallas, sorry, Pope. I don't buy it.
Look, when the Lightning
you're selling stock in Dallas.
I'm not a big Dallas fan. I'm sorry. Do you have season tickets to them?
Why wouldn't I?
Kidding me?
I think the last game I went to was the Stanley Cup final in 1999.
Yeah, that was against Buffalo, huh?
But we did win.
Actually,
I went the year later when we lost to the Devils.
He's already trying to figure out his connection to the Bruins.
He's trying to.
He'll find it.
I like Bears.
We hung out on St. Patrick's Day in Boston one year.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is.
Well,
so let's switch gears to the NBA. Are you finished, Moose?
Hold on. Well, I'm just going to say, bring me back once we have the playoffs set, and then we can do a proper analysis of who's playing who, because we know Toronto and Tampa are playing, and I got to tell you, it's a little disappointing that the shit talk that I'm sending to Milk in our little chat, he's just ignoring right now. It's like he doesn't even see it.
I just
You know.
we're a playoff team. You know it.
Yeah.
Let's get to the playoffs.
Okay, go talk NBA. I'm going to pull up the text he sent me last week about the Leafs. Okay, after they made the trade for that guy from Nashville.
Right.
Good to see
All
you,
right.
Moose.
All right. Thanks, Moose. Good to have you. We'll get you back for the playoffs.
All right.
You're welcome to hang, though.
I'll hang.
So the big story in the NBA right now is what's going on with Morant. And, until this all broke, it seemed pretty clear to me, at least, that the two players who were sort of destined to be in line to become the face of the NBA when LeBron finally stepped down were and, excuse me, the guy on the Celtics, Tatum. And I kind of gave Ja the the lead there because he's a more exciting player. They're both well loved by the fans, by their teammates, and by the NBA. And Ja was just, he was just destined for that kind of stardom. He's just signed a max contract. He's one of maybe 5 guys who's got his own individual sneaker deal with Nike. And then, news started to trickle out last summer that he had a house party, got into a little beef with a teenager, went in the house, came back out with a gun in his waistband to intimidate the kid. That kind of got shushed up for a while. And then early February of this year, there was that beef that he had on court with the Pacers, and one of the guys from his crew jumped out onto the court to try to get involved and had to be escorted off the court. And then later, after the game, he and his buddies rolled up on some of the Pacers in a car, and what the Pacers will tell you happened was they shined a gun sight red laser beam into their car. So that didn't sit too well with the NBA, but again, they kind of let the team deal with it. And then this Friday, they played the Grizzlies played the Nuggets, which means they had to get on a team plane. And then that Saturday night, while they're still in Denver, excuse me, Ja's at a club and posts a video of himself on Instagram waving his gun, which means that he put the gun on the airplane and brought it from Memphis to Denver, which is against NBA rules and maybe against the law for all I know. I don't know.
Wait, are you sure Brandon Miller didn't bring it to him?
He may have, but that would have been a long drive from Alabama.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon.
So, it concerns me for him, for Ja. I think a lot of the commentators out there, including Stephen A. and others, are sort of trying to sweep this under the rug and say, how dare you treat this guy like this? He's 23 years old. Every 23-year-old makes mistakes. Well, you know what I say to that is, remember Plaxico Burress? He walked into a club one time with a gun in his pants in New York and never played again and went to jail, actually, because the thing discharged accidentally. That's the kind of stuff that can go wrong when you're screwing around with guns in clubs and transporting guns in airplanes and through airports. It's just dumb. It's really dumb. It's a good way to lose your Nike deal. It's a good way to get your max contract voided. And, I think of the guys who preceded LeBron as the face of the NBA and LeBron, Jordan, Kobe. They would never, ever have let something that dumb affect their business because they were very cognizant of the money they were going to make in marketing, and guns and marketing just don't mix unless your sport is NASCAR. But if your sport is the NBA, not a good idea. Just not a good idea for all kinds of reasons.
You know how much I love Jordan, the GOAT, but I mean, it's arguable that he took 2 years off, not just to play baseball, but because he had a gambling problem, and he was asked to leave for a couple years because of that. And then his father's death, a lot of mystery surrounding that. So, Jordan wasn't as clean as some of the other faces of the NBA, unfortunately.
Maybe not, but he knew better and maybe got addicted to gambling, but it didn't really harm his legacy one bit. This
It is
could,
not overtime.
I mean, what's Plexico Burris? They won the Super Bowl. They were favored to get back to the Super Bowl the next year, and without their number one receiver, many of the fans believe that's why they didn't get back. So that guy's legacy has been burnished terribly. So my point is this: I'm rooting for Ja to get the help that he needs from his family, from his team, and from the NBA. But man, they need to step up and get this done, because this could go sideways badly, and people need to stop, sweeping it under the rug. I don't want to go to like Aaron Hernandez, but I'm sure there were times when he was doing stuff like this and people were like, yeah, he just needs to grow up. You can't be running with guns and people who want to get into fights.
His dad is not
when you're
exactly
the man.
helping. His
Right.
dad's part of the problem.
Jaws,
Yeah.
tell me about that.
His dad was involved in an altercation in one of the games. I can't remember what it was.
Oh,
but had to be escorted out. I mean, I'm just saying he's surrounding himself with people who are making bad decisions.
Right.
That's exactly right.
The
Two
closest
observations. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Bruce.
I was going to say the closest example I can think of is Michael Vick. He was the face of the NFL. He was on Madden, and then the dog scandal broke, guns, etc. And yeah, he came back, but he was never the same in terms of marketing. He was never going to be the face of the NFL again. Josh going down that road.
That's nothing compared to the scandal if somebody accidentally gets shot.
Oh yeah,
by being a hothead or in a club where you drop your gun and it goes off.
Two observations on this Ja thing. One is I really, courtesy of Bison, I wish you were on to share this, but it was a perfect metaphor that you're talking about, Rooster, about how it can really send a team south. And the Gilbert Arenas example in Washington, when they had a really good team, he listed this morning on the text, it was Gilbert Arenas and Caron Butler and Antoine Jameson, and they were actually a pretty good team.
They were good and they were entertaining too.
And then he brought three guns into the locker room, and that, he got suspended and everything changed. And my second observation is that in some ways the NBA is complicit in this. I'm not suggesting that the NBA put a gun in Ja's hand when he was on Instagram, but the NBA knows that to make the NBA profitable, they got to bring kids into the NBA. In fact, they're even contemplating lowering the age by 1 year to make it 18 years old to come in the NBA. And if you don't have some type of NBA liaison or ombudsman or something that really works with these kids, has somebody on every single team. Obviously, you can't follow them at all times and walk with them, Ja and his posse, into the strip bar. But look, the NBA has got to get its arms around this, because it's about to get way, way worse. We're seeing these episodes,
at the college level.
Yes. And these very talented players are coming in to the NBA in gun culture. And the NBA has got to eliminate gun culture as part of it. It's to your point, Ja was one of definitely and still is one of the faces of the NBA to popularize this, to say, hey, part of being Ja Morant is hanging out in the strip bar with showing your gun on Instagram Live is just not what the NBA wants, not for 1 second.
No. I think the NFL has done a little bit better job of just what you're talking about, House, which is recognizing that you give a 21, 2, 3, 4-year-old hundreds of millions of dollars, you have sort of a responsibility to step back and say, hey, shouldn't we help educate these guys about what could go wrong? And, your former coach for the Bucks, Tony Dungy, Milk famously says to anyone who will listen to him, there are only 5 things you need to avoid: guns, street racing, drugs, and I forget what the other 2. I think, women, probably other players' wives, that kind of thing.
Just
other
saying,
players.
hookers.
No, but I forget what all of them are, but it's a pretty easy list. And if you can avoid those things, like Ruggs, right? Henry Ruggs, get a frickin' driver, man.
But does the NBA, like you always hear the story the NFL brings in like a former player who blew all his money and a financial analyst, and they talk about how to handle your finances. But do these leagues have people that these guys can talk to about their personal issues? And, is there a team psychiatrist? Is there a psychologist or whatever?
Yeah.
Who does this guy, because he's clearly surrounded himself with probably not the best people.
All the teams have that now, but I will tell you, this I think goes. It's not. It's partly the team, but I got to tell you, the agent needs to get involved, because I've got a buddy who's a NHL player agent, and he worked for the Players Association and then became an agent, and he's got some superstars, and he's got people he assigns to live and go with these guys when they're in their early 20s, because he knows that they are making way too much money and they're too stupid in their decision making. These guys aren't allowed to go to the bars without their person or their security. The agent has to be involved. They're like so close to the parents and the player. It's time that the agent has a financial interest to make sure that none of this stuff is happening. So where are these guys during this situation?
Yeah.
Get the guy security. There's no reason any one of these guys should be driving or going to a bar that needs a gun, because you should be having security. I was listening this morning that Shaq never carried a gun because Uncle Jerome had the gun as his security. These players, take the security. You've got the money. Don't put yourself in a situation where a gun accidentally goes off and kills someone, because then you're going to be going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope for the best, because he really is an exciting player and seems like a good person who just needs to get it together.
Hey.
Hope. First race, Bahrain Grand Prix this week. Take it from there, bruh.
Bahrain F1 2023 lights out, and I don't think it's going to be much of a competition this year at the top. I think the middle is going to be fascinating to watch, more so than in past years. But Red Bull asserted their dominance. Max won the race, finished 40 seconds ahead of any other non-Red Bull car. Wasn't ever threatened once he survived the start, and no virtual safety cars or any other pit stops that would have screwed him up. His car was clearly superior, and Checo had no problems finishing second. But the biggest story, I think you guys will all probably agree, is the rise of Aston Martin. We talked about them in our preview, that they could threaten the big three this year, big three being Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari. And sure enough,
yep, you hit that nail on the head.
Alonso, he's back, baby.
That was shocking.
Here's a great factoid for you. You guys know how I love those factoids. Alonso's 41 years old. He's the oldest driver in the last 37 years, other than Michael Schumacher, to get on the podium. Schumacher got on the podium when he was 43, 2012 in Valencia, finished third. So this is not an ordinary feat that he pulled off yesterday. But in addition to Alonso, Lance Stroll finished sixth, and that guy had two crushed wrists. So Aston Martin was flexing their muscles, and Ferrari. I'm going to compliment somebody else on the pod for coming up with this, but Leclerc was fucked once again.
I think that's the story.
He's got a bad car. Another DNF, lap 41, power issue. How many times did we see that last year when Leclerc was he was P3 on lap 41, probably going to cruise to P3, and he's out. And then
Miller, you live near French-speaking people. Teach them how to say Leclerc.
He's not far off. He's not far off.
Don't go there. But Mercedes, and I take credit for this one, they were out-wolfed
No.
They are not showing any strength early. Didn't in testing, certainly didn't with Ham at 5 and Russell at 7. And I guess the most exciting part of the race yesterday for those who watched was watching Alonso hunt down Hamilton on one turn. He almost crashed when he passed him on the inside and couldn't quite get him. And then he
That
just
was a magnificent pass.
Then he took him down on the next on lap 10 on the inside straight. What a great move. And then just, took down Science as he's going to P3. So again, I think, and we're going to go to Saudi Arabia and Australia. Red Bull is gonna run away with this. The Constructors' Championship not going to be competitive as long as Max is Max. He's not going to let Checo taste the championship. Although one other factoid, the winner of Bahrain the last 6 years has been the runner-up in the championship driving. So if you hate Max, you love the fact that he won, because if statistics hold, he will be the runner-up. But I don't think that's going to happen this year.
So
Ferrari-
go ahead.
Ferrari's in real trouble. I mean, they are in real trouble. First of all, it turns out that you have an allotment of 2 of these electrical power sources to the engine, and he used up one of them, which failed in qualifying, and the second one failed during the race. He's used up in the first race of the year his allotment there
For the year.
For the year. So now to use an extra one, he's going to be penalized likely on the grid.
10 positions or something like that, right?
And
they'll have to take the medicine. They got to do it.
It is it's a mess over there.
I mean, they fired their principal because of poor strategic decisions during racing and reliability problems with the car, and they haven't done anything to address the reliability problems.
And his inability to speak English on the Netflix series.
But I will tell you, Pope, it was a great call about Alonso, because I do think that head to head, I'll still take Lewis as the better driver. Not that Alonso is a shabby driver, but you keep saying, and I in the past disagreed that it's the car, it's not the driver. But I think that pass proved it. I think Aston Martin has a better car, because it's not like Lewis is a bad driver.
Right.
Yep.
Now, okay,
Milk, jump in there. You were trying to say something. Go ahead.
No. Keep going. I'll go back to it in a second.
All right.
That was it. Yeah, Milk.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say.
You were going to say something.
Good talk.
brilliant.
Good talk.
Good talk.
You were going to say something brilliant about F1.
Hey, how about all the articles I was reading before the season started were singing Alpine's praises. They did nothing, right? Ocon gets 35 seconds in penalty time, and Gasly didn't do much better.
Timing penalties.
I mean, talk about race management. My God,
that is awful. And I mean, the loser of the day is who? McLaren.
Yeah, well, they already.
Oh my God, have they fallen?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be the Haas of this year.
Okay, I got a question for you guys, because if you're a new F1 viewer thinking about getting involved in it, and you look at the brands and the car manufacturers, your first instinct is to say, like, oh, I assume Ferrari is like going to be the best. Like, why is Ferrari so bad? What is it? Bad luck? Is it bad decision making? How can a company with such history of creating top of the line vehicles not able to perform in F1? What is the answer?
Don't know.
I mean, there's a big difference between street cars and racing cars. I think some of the things that are affecting Ferrari is the conformity that you have to follow now. I think the conformity has really created a lot more parity in the midfield. And so Ferrari can't make whatever souped up, special unit that they want. They've got to be within the guidelines that keep narrowing and narrowing in F1.
Well, then I guess the corollary to that is, why is Red Bull such a superior unit then?
I think the engine's part of it. I think Max is part of it.
Are they still using
Not
Honda?
40 seconds.
Yeah, they are still using Honda.
Yeah, I think they're still using Honda.
But we got to give a shout out to Logan Sargent, USA,
Yeah.
USA. He had a
Yeah.
great showing.
Yeah, he
Um,
finished.
P12.
Yeah, baby.
And Williams held their own.
Ocon got 10th place. I mean,
Albon.
Albon.
I'm good, guys. When you're going and saying 12th, go USA, you're starting to sound a little Canadian. Okay?
We
Good
can
point.
see it at F1. We totally can see
I'm
it.
just saying, you're sounding a
You
little
can't dominate
Canadian.
everything, Miller. Come on.
All right, let's move along. The next segment we all agreed on was to do a quick hit SMQB shots. Everyone gets a minute. Milk, you start us out.
All right. Well, this is a homer play, but for all of our Tampa Bay Ray listeners that we have as part of this podcast, we lost our radio announcer over the weekend.
Oh,
Dave Wills, who's been around since the early 2000s, iconic voice. You probably recognize it, seen it on highlights. He passed away suddenly at 58 years old, the day after he did a spring training game. So it's a really big story around here. And he was like a huge part of the community and all of that. Great guy. And so I thought we'd pour one out for him real quick. Dave Wills.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave. Pope, you're up.
Well, you guys know I was over the weekend in Chapel Hill for the rematch of Duke Carolina. And we can talk about it more in another pod, but Carolina's back was to the wall, and they had to have that game in order to most likely make the NCAA tournament. And the same problems that have haunted them all year, inability to hit a shot when it matters, inability to close a game, bad coaching, bit them again. The atmosphere was unbelievable. People said it was the loudest they've ever heard at the Smith Center, Dean Dome. We were ready to rip that roof right off if they had just shown up. And it was a great weekend in Chapel Hill for everything except for the actual score of the game.
Are you counting them out of the ACC tournament?
You know, they are consistently inconsistent. So in order to win the ACC tournament, they got to win 4 straight games. Can they do it? Sure. Virginia Tech did it last year on their way to the NCAA tournament. But, you know, so they have to beat Boston College, Louisville winner. Then they play Virginia. Well, they beat Virginia. Then they
Virginia's overranked, I think.
Then they play the winner of probably NC State and Clemson. I mean, neither one of those teams, they beat NC State earlier. They lost him another game. Neither one of those games, but you know, they can't win games when it matters. They can't close games when they're ahead. So I don't give them much odds at all to get to the finals. If they make the finals of the ACC tournament, that means they'll have 2 quad 1 wins along the way. And that probably would be sufficient to get them to the NCAA tournament. Short of that, they ain't going. Sitting home, NIT, baby.
And then that's the last we're going to hear about them.
Until Tulane plays them in the NIT.
All right, House, take it away.
For all you suckers out there that are salivating on high jumps and broad jump distances and 40 times, the NFL Combine is a ruse. And if your team is about to jump up to number 1 and take Anthony Richardson, Anthony Richardson, and just ignore what he did on the actual playing field this year, then you get what you deserve. The Combine is fun television for the NFL and fun for Twitter, but most of these things are just statistical outliers that are fun inside of a petri dish. They should not really form very much of your draft analysis.
The Florida fan looks like he agrees.
As a Gator fan, I absolutely agree with you. I don't understand the buzz on Richardson. He is a freak of nature physically, but he made some of the dumbest plays ever last year. His completion percentage, I think, was 53%, which I'm sure will translate well in the NFL.
Let me play devil's advocate. He's threw less than 400 passes in his whole college career.
He still had a year and a half starting, and I mean, some of the decision making was. He's a work. I mean, he's going to be an investment in him. Yeah. And look, he's got the physical skills. but I've known a lot of
Well, so did
NFL
Jamarcus Russell. So did,
So did, so did Ryan Leaf.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but I hear he's interviewing extremely well.
Like on
Unlike
the one- on the-
Jamarcus Russell.
like on the Wonderlick.
I think so.
That's again, that's fine. But when the ball is actually snapped in in a loud stadium away and there's 80,000 fans, it's kind of different story.
Al Davis Jr., baby.
House, do we have any insight on what the Bears might do with their number 1 pick yet?
Everyone says they're trading it. Well,
At least once.
At least
maybe
once.
twice.
And the crazy thing was, until this recent arrest of Jalen Carter, the suggestion was that they could trade down probably twice to 5 and still get him.
Well, now they for sure can.
Now they for sure can,
They
and
can
they
trade
still
down-
might take
They
that
could trade
risk.
down to the 5th round.
A lot of people are saying that Shane Steichen and the Indianapolis Colts are going to jump up to 1 and take Anthony Richardson.
Wow.
Let them.
Crazy.
Which would be crazy. But I think right now, I think you can bank on 4 quarterbacks going in the first 10.
A team like the Packers should take him because they're used to sitting a guy for 3 or 4 years.
I'd rather have Kyle Trask.
Yeah.
Wow.
To be honest, I mean,
Wow.
his stat, if you want to compare stats,
The Bears need lots of people. They could build up their interior
yeah,
offensive line and
absolutely.
protect fields and get some wide receivers. They should do it. Moose,
Yeah,
anything you want to say?
yeah, I got to tell you, I came across a story.
Okay,
that
thanks.
I-
Go ahead.
That's so fucking rude. Came across a story that, and I'm sure most of you remember, Freddie Brown from Georgetown,
Yes.
Well, of course, I remember Freddie Brown.
Downtown Freddie Brown.
1982.
Wrong pass.
Right. And there was a story that I came across and I sent it over to our friend who's not here today, Bison. And it talked about how composed this kid was, standing in front of reporters for, an hour and a half, answering every single question to the point that the reporters shook his hand at the end and thanked him. And I compare that to the kids today that are coming into the NBA and look at what John Morant just did and some of these other guys. And I was so impressed with this story to see that, because that was an all-time blunder, right up there with Chris Webber. And Chris Webber,
I was about to say, because Chris Webber did the same thing as Fred Brown. He stood there and talked to them and took it like a man.
Yeah,
Our standing among boomers just skyrocketed. Thanks.
But you know what? I just was impressed with that, and I just wish the kids that are coming into the NBA, and Freddie Brown, I can't remember if he got drafted or ever played in the NBA. If he did, it was for a real quick cup of
He played
coffee
for
kind of
the Seattle Supersonics for a
No,
while and on some good teams.
that was downtown Freddie Brown. That's a different Freddie Brown.
I thought we were talking about downtown
No,
Freddie
no.
Brown.
No,
We're talking about wrong way James Worthy Fred Brown.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no.
So I just,
Okay.
you know what, I was impressed with that story, and you know what, some of these younger athletes should take a page out of the Chris Webbers and Fred Browns, because they've got millions and millions being thrown their way, and they're going to throw it away.
Ironically, 2 colossal mistakes that gave Carolina a national championship both times.
They can't win it on their own.
Yeah. So I'm gonna use my short time, and I'll try to be shorter than a minute on the NBA. I know you guys are all expecting me to talk about the Knicks, and it's thrilling to be a Knicks fan again. Finally, we're 5th in the East after beating the Celtics two games this week, the Heat and the Nets. We've beaten the Celtics 3 straight this year. And in the power rankings just came out, and they have the Knicks number 1, which I think is kind of silly. Knicks aren't as good as Milwaukee. They're not as good as the 76ers, and they're not as good as the Celtics, but they're a damn good, scrappy team. And I just hope they beat Cleveland in the playoffs and pick up a star for next year. It's good to be excited again in the Garden. And my second thing is KD is fitting in like a glove on the Suns. They are 3-0 since he started. Meanwhile, the Mavs are 3-6 with Kyrie in the lineup. And KD they just look unstoppable. I think they've got to be the favorite to win the West at this point.
That was an amazing game on Sunday with KD Book and Luka and Kyrie just going at it blow after blow. I mean, everybody wants to see that 7-game series now.
Well, I don't know if Alice will make it that far.
Oh, okay. Alice.
It's like anyone can score 125 points on that team.
So can I
Pretty
just go
much.
back? So wait, so Rooster, I just want to understand. You're super excited that the Knicks are 5th in the East?
They've won
No,
exactly
I just-
one
We're talking about the
championship
Knicks
in
here.
the 70s
No, I understand.
and have had
but-
maybe 2 or 3 sniffs at it since.
No, I understand,
Yes.
but you're excited that they will not have home court advantage in the first round.
You're missing the point.
You're missing the point.
No,
You're a
I'm
Leafs
not.
fan. You should know what I'm talking about.
Oh, no.
Madison Square Garden has been vacant in June and July for the last umpteen years. This is good, not just for the New York fans, but for the NBA basketball. For there to be playoff basketball in Madison Square Garden is a good thing. The place was nuts when they played the Hawks a year or two ago, and it's good for the NBA.
Hey, a golfer would understand. This year is better than most for the Knicks.
There you go.
Better than most, but they're not there yet. They're not
Speaking
there
of
yet.
golf, we got
On
a
a
big
great trajectory.
the 5th major coming up this weekend of the Players.
True.
Right.
All right. All right.
No
All the
live,
good players are at live.
none,
How-
0.
House, you have a punchable face?
I thought we
I actually have 2 punch. Yeah, Milk.
Are we
What?
talking NFL? I thought we were doing an NFL thing. No,
You want to talk some NFL?
Take another minute, Milk. Go ahead.
I thought we were doing a hot stove.
Oh,
Well,
Are we talking about Derek Carr?
oh,
talk
are you?
about Derek Carr.
Talk about Derek Carr.
Go
Milk.
ahead. Go ahead.
It was on the agenda.
Downfall of the Bucks. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's breaking news today. He's signed I think a 4-year deal with the Saints worth a shit ton of money. I don't know how they pulled it off because they were like 60 million over the cap as of yesterday. I think they've done some restructuring, but that's a big deal. The Saints are now, I don't know how they're going to have to get rid of some players to make this happen. Like, I don't know if Michael Thomas is coming back or
He's not.
I guess Landry. I mean, even hell, Kamara could be on the table.
He could be.
Could be in jail.
Oh,
but,
Jesus.
Wow.
No, I mean, seriously, it's still out there. It's still hanging over
it
his
is.
head.
So they're gonna have to make some changes, but I don't know. I kind of felt like last year they have a pretty good defense. I think Carr's a game changer. They're a very good team. I
You
think
do?
yeah, I think
I
they're-
You
think
think
Carr's
Derek
good,
Carr's a
too.
game
Yes.
changer?
I think
I
he's
think-
good.
I think he's been in a bad situation.
Yeah, we're the right.
I think the
Right.
Saints are I like Allen. I think he's a good coach.
He just had Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams. What was bad about his situation? And
Play
Darren
calling,
Waller.
The play calling. Darren Waller never stepped on the field this year.
Later on, he did. I'm going to tell you, Milk, I'll take Kyle Trask over Derek Carr.
No.
Wow,
Whoa,
that makes
whoa.
me feel better.
Wow. I am encouraged by this news because if you do the math, he's making $37.5 million a year. And Daniel Jones is no Derek Carr. He better sign with the Giants for about that much.
Well, look, the Saints have gone all in here, literally. I mean, they can't afford anything else. They're gonna have to cut players. It has to work out, or they're fucked.
They're
So,
going to be resting on their defense next year, but is that the team you're now scared of in your
But
division?
clearly the
Absolutely.
favorite in the
They're
South next year.
they're definitely the clear favorite now. I mean, who's going to be
Wow.
quarterback of Carolina and Atlanta? No idea.
Derek Carr has won how many playoff games
We'll
so
have
far in his
Carson
career?
Wentz. We'll have Carson Wentz in week 1. Or Baker Mayfield.
I wouldn't worry about Derek Carr.
All right, that makes me feel better.
All right, let's punch somebody.
So I was going to punch 2 people, but I put up my my right jab and the NBA blocked it, because if you guys didn't see yesterday, Giannis Antetokounmpo was on the edge of a triple-double and he was missing 1 rebound. And with the Bucks smoking the Wizards, he runs down the court, has the ball in his own hands, and has, the clock's just going to run out. He should just hold the ball. but instead he goes up and purposefully misses a layup and collects the rebound.
He didn't
so
even jump.
that he'll get a triple double.
That was
What?
pretty bad.
What a punk.
That was pretty bad.
I mean, that's what you're going to teach kids. It's all about the stats. Pad your stats with a BS, like fake rebound. So he had the triple double last night, and then the NBA today rescinded it. Thank you,
Oh, that's
NBA.
awesome.
Good.
yes. All right. I
Good.
like that.
I think it's bothersome that
punch.
he knew that he needed one rebound for the triple double.
It's outrageous. But the real punchable face goes to Texas Tech coach Mark Adams. And I don't know if you guys have heard this story, but what is wrong with some of these coaches? Like, what is in their head when they're like reciting Bible verses to players, most of whom on your team are black players, and talking to these players lines from the Bible about how there's always a master and a servant, and workers, teachers, parents, and slaves need to serve their masters? Like, are you serious? But it got worse. He at one point, it also came out today that he spit on a player, and he said that he had a bad cold, and that because of his bad cold, he was dribbling a little bit. He was just like salivating.
It was a dribble versus a loogie.
And the players side of it is the coach said, I can spit on you anytime I want, which is a little bit different than a cold.
Wow.
I mean, we need to not only punch this guy in the face, but we need to hock a loogie at him and say, see ya.
12 of their 13 players are black, and his complaint was they weren't receptive to his coaching. Maybe it's because you're a racist piece of shit, old man. I mean, get that guy out of there.
Jeez.
He's not even good.
No.
Well,
they
the
started
good
out
news
good.
the good news for that team is that Chris Beard is now available to come back.
Oh boy.
You Texas
All right.
coaches.
Anybody have another punch? Lasso? Anyone have a lasso?
You have a lasso, Rooster.
I do. I have a lasso. I have to tell you about the Virginia Division 31 Special Olympics championships this weekend. My daughter has played on the Henrico Hornets for over 10 years. And this is a team made up of kids whose average height is probably about 5'4".
So my height.
Several of the kids are nonverbal. The one tall guy they have on the team is has the most beautiful shot you've ever seen. He catches it and shoots before he even looks, and it usually goes in from one spot on the court. The problem is on defense, he also stands in that spot on the court waiting for the ball. So there's no big people playing defense, and they won three straight games. The first game, one of the kids hit a legitimate three at the buzzer to win the game by 1 point.
Oh my.
Yes.
So they get
You
to
got
the
video?
they win two more and
That's
get to
awesome.
the finals against this team that's got two kids on the team who are about, I'd say 6'1", 250, who just stand in the middle of the paint.
Wow.
And they don't call 3 seconds and just turn and shoot. And a couple of these girls who are about 5'4" moved those guys out of there and kept them under control. And for the rest of the game, they were passing and passing, playing great defense. It was just a sight to behold, and really one of the most moving experiences I've had in a very long time. So cheers to the Henrico Hornets, and including my daughter, Kate, who
Yes,
I'm sure
chick.
is going to tell all of
Yay,
you all
Kate
about
Phelan.
it next time she sees you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Kate.
Go
chick.
Kate.
By the way, we got to give a
So
shout
awesome.
out to Kate Phelan, who is now the #1 fan of the SMQBs. She's the only person crazy enough to go back to episode 1 and listen to them in order from the beginning.
She is. She
Smart
is.
girl.
She is. This is also the same child who has made me listen to every episode of Little House on the Prairie and Anne of Green Gables. I've seen them all at least 3 times, so she'll have them. She'll have our episodes memorized soon.
I love it.
All right, fellas. Good
That's a
show.
great
Moose,
story,
thanks
Rooster.
again. Thanks again for joining us. We miss you, Bison.
Thanks, Miller.
Thanks, Moose.
Anytime.
Thanks, Moose Jaw.
See ya.
All right. Good
See ya.
job, everyone.